There's a little section that comes up on this rosebud, and it's really a shadow, which could be any color. Pulling the green on top of the red just darkens the red. That happens because they're complementary colors, and that's another day. Color theory is fascinating. People tell you to buy color wheels, but they don't tell you why. So I bought them all and I couldn't figure out why I had them, but I knew it was going to make me a better artist somehow. But we'll spend some time later. Okay. This is almost dry. Let me go ahead and show you what I had planned to do there. A little bit of pink. Again, permanent alizarin crimson. Almost pastel. And I'm just going to put a little blob. Clean that brush, dry it off. And I'm going to soften these edges. So when that dries, it will look as though you're looking through that leaf, as we talked before. We did have that little triangle that somebody covered up. It's the art elves that come in when you're not looking and change your paintings. Dark here, not dark enough here. Still got the paint on the brush. I'll come back with some yellow. And then I'm just going to soften. The yellow on this side is fine. Just soften that edge. And this needs to dry for just a second before we can go any further. Backgrounds, optional. If you're doing rosebuds, for example, and you want to just decide what to use for a background, you want to think sometimes of what you would see when you looked at this rosebud. Fairly small, fairly close to the ground, probably a foot or so. So you think if you were looking at it from this angle, you'd probably be close to the ground looking up. So maybe you'd see the sky, maybe you'd see some green, some more roses, some more flowers. So you tend to go to things that make sense. And logic has a lot to do with success. So if you think about it as something that would actually make sense, then it'll get you ahead of the game. I'm going to put just a touch of blue in this background. Not necessarily to have a blue sky, but to enhance this flower. And one thing you need to know, we talked earlier about paint traveling to the edge of the moisture and not going any further. Important to know at this point. If I were to put water on here and add that paint and leave it here, I would end up with a halo, that blue that came up to this edge and just stopped. Sometimes it's imperceptible, and that's all you need to really mess up a good painting. I'm painting this whole piece of paper with the water because I know that this gradual transition from dark to light may not show at first, and not until I put this away and come back and get ready to frame it and then go, oh my God, look what I did. How do you know when it's everywhere it needs to be? Again, you turn it on its side and you'll see, for example, this white space, hopefully. So you go back and you fill those in. I know I'm putting blue on here. Blue and yellow make green, so I can just do this right across. There are lots of things you can worry about, and this is not one of them. And my favorite thing to tell my guys is find something else to worry about. And I'm using a bigger brush so I can paint faster. People say, oh, I couldn't possibly do a great big painting. You do the same painting you do on a small piece of paper, you just use bigger brushes. So it's no harder. I'm propping this up on the masking tape because I want to avoid having this water collect. Sometimes if it's flat, it does, and it causes ripples in your paper. Paint tends to pool. I'm going to take some cobalt and just touch it. I'm not doing this in order to have a blue background, but merely to enhance this flower. And I don't want you to actually notice the blue when all is said and done. This wasn't totally dry and it's starting to run a little bit. So again, I'm just going to lift that color, push it back into that area, and there's a good chance you'll never notice. Red, on the other hand, will run. So if you're going to paint something and you know you're going to do some wet into wet technique later, try to keep your reds until almost the end. So again, this is all very wet. I'm barely touching it and just trying to diffuse it and pull it out in a way. And it's amazing how it makes this flower pop. Sometimes very subtle changes will make all the difference. So now's a good time to go paint.